In 1995, a 19-year-old Juan Pablo Montoya is moving to Europe, and this is of course the second part of his racing journey, so if you want to know about his home, his family, and his interesting junior career in Colombia, be sure to go check out part 1 of this video. But at this point, he's in a test for Paul Stewart Racing at Silverstone, and on lap 3, coming down the Wellington Straight into Brooklands, he has a brake failure. Well, technically the brakes still work, but the pedal has broken off. He had enough time to double check. Yep, there's the throttle, that one's the clutch, yeah, one's missing, smash bang into the wall. Uninjured, he was pretty relaxed about the whole situation, which the team appreciated. They also appreciated the speed he had shown in only 2 laps. They would sign him for the Formula Vauxhall season. When Juan moved to England, he had an old Ford Fiesta that started sometimes. His English was sufficient, and his sister had moved there with him. However, they still bickered a lot, so after 3 months, he was living alone in Milton Keynes. Every day he walked to the team's headquarters, worked out, talked to the engineers, and across the 95 Vauxhall season would finish 3rd in the championship with 3 wins and podiums in over half the races. The team wanted him to stay another year, but they didn't have an opening in their Formula 3 team for him to advance to. His manager found him a deal with Fortec Motorsports. He says the F3 cars were fun, but they were twitchy, unpredictable, and didn't match his style. In 1996, he finished 4th in the Masters of Formula 3 and 5th in the British Championship with 2 victories. In the following year, he moved up to Formula 3000 International, which was a more natural fit. After being the quickest in the test, he signed with the RSM Marco team. Yes, that Marco. JPM has said this is one of his toughest years in Europe, but he had a good relationship with Dr. Marco. Helmut rented him an apartment in Graz, Austria near the team, but Juan's only form of transportation was a pair of rollerblades. He couldn't really speak the local language, and if something happened to the car, he was awkwardly stuck with mechanics waiting for the team van to take him home. In addition, due to a poor final gear ratio, Montoya was bleeding time on the straights. Marco thought he was purposely throwing the championship because he had an opposing team contract lined up for next year, but Juan has said at the time he was out of money and options for next year. In 1997, he'd finished 2nd, 1.5 points behind Ricardo Zonta in the championship. Fortunately, his performance had him invited to a Williams Young Drivers test, and he ended up being over a second faster than the other guys. Because of his potential, it convinced Frank to help him fund a deal with the Supernova team. In 1998, JPM would win the Formula 3000 Championship with 9 out of 12 podiums and 4 victories, including the Po Grand Prix where he lapped the whole field.
It's a superb move.
Throughout 1998, Montoya was doing testing duties for the Williams F1 team and was matching the pace of the regular drivers. The Williams family had invested a lot into his career. He won the F3000 Championship, so for 1999 he was anticipating a move to main driver. He was at home in Colombia when he received a call from Frank. "We've decided to sign Alex Zanardi as the driver. Come do testing, we need to help him out." Being ever direct, he responded, "If you think he's better than me, why does he need my help?" Frank reminded him he was under contract. Juan arrived to the test a bit cross, but he was a fan of Alex and they got along well. Alongside Zanardi was his former boss from the kart series, Chip Ganassi. When testing finished, Chip asked to meet him back at the hotel. He showed up with a contract to have Juan replace Alex at his team in the USA. Montoya figured his shot at F1 was over. He was destined to always be the test driver. Plus, he knew how good the Ganassi team was. He said he wanted to sign, but of course he still had a contract with Frank. Chip told him they'd already discussed the matter, and with that, Montoya would sign a 3-year deal to race in the USA. Juan Pablo arrived in kart filling the seat of a 2-time champion, and the first 2 races were a little below expectation. But in race 3, he felt validated in his decision when he won the Long Beach Grand Prix. The next week, he won Nazareth, then Rio. He'd get another 4 wins and 2 runner-up finishes that year, winning the championship as a rookie. Racing here was a new environment. Restarts were hectic, ovals could be especially dangerous, and some guys were stubbornly aggressive. Juan names Michael Andretti as someone you had to have a crash with first so he would stop trying to bully you on track. This led to some tough, side-banging races at over 300 kph. This aggressive attitude and Montoya's speed carried into year 2. However, his team had switched to Toyota engines, and while they were quick, at the beginning there were a lot of failures. Midway in the year, his team owner made a step into the rival Indy Racing League to compete in the Indy 500. JPM didn't really want to. He thought they were wasting time not focusing fully on kart, and admittedly he didn't give the event the respect and prestige many thought it deserved. But when it came to the race, rookie Juan qualified second, led 167 of 200 laps, and won in his first attempt. A week later he returned to kart and won again. Across the season he got 3 victories, but ended 9th in points. While Montoya was in the USA, he had always kept a friendly relationship with Frank Williams. Alex Zanardi had struggled in his return to F1, and Frank had already wanted Juan back as early as 2000, but he was under contract. After he won the Indy 500, he received a call from Frank. "Do you still want to race in F1? "Well, yes, but I have a contract with Chip." "Don't worry, I'll take care of it. This is what I can pay you." Juan said he didn't care about money, he just wanted to race. So at age 25 in 2001, he was set to replace a driver at Williams. When he arrived, he found the adjustment from kart back to the F1 car a bit tough. In testing leading up to the start of the season, every time he got close to a lap time of teammate Ralf Schumacher, he'd pull another several tenths. Juan says Ralf was much quicker than most people ever gave him credit. While their relationship as teammates was a bit frosty, they were never really hostile, and he respected Ralph's abilities. When it came time for the first race, Frank told him he wanted to see the aggressive Montoya from the kart series. He went from P11 to P8 in turn 1, and then made contact with Eddie Irvine in T3. He made it back into the points before his engine went pop. Race 2 was a bit disastrous, but in Brazil, running second under the safety car, he saw an opportunity. In the USA, restarts were berserk, and he was good at them. So at T1, he dove down the inside of Michael Schumacher, made the pass, and ran him out of road on the exit. A very Michael-style move on Michael. But Juan was making a statement that he would compete against anyone. However, halfway through the race, Jos Verstappen made a statement by crashing into the back of Montoya while being lapped. However, JPM was satisfied with his performance, figuring he would be in the team longer than just a year like his 2 predecessors. In his first year, there was some pressure from Frank Williams and Patrick Head to improve in qualifying, but he knew that and wasn't really bothered by the criticism. Frank's son Jonathan has said Juan was also not bothered by controversy with other drivers. He even believes he enjoyed giving it back, whereas others didn't want distractions. By the end of the year, he'd have quite a few DNFs, but 4 podiums and get his maiden win at Monza. Over the next 3 years at Williams, he would achieve a further 19 podiums and 3 victories, including Monaco in 2003. He was always an alternative consideration for the championship and a thorn in the side of Ferrari, but realistically the team lacked the pace to compete overall. Then, during 2003, rumors started to arise of dissonance between Juan and the team, questions of different pay to drivers, and preferential treatment from partner BMW. Jonathan Williams has said he believes his father and Patrick probably didn't handle the situation properly, and it led to a blow-up in the French Grand Prix and a loss of a driver. Later, Montoya announced he was moving to McLaren Mercedes in 2005. In his first test for McLaren, he brought the car back saying something was broken in the rear end. Turns out that's just how it drove. The car was quick, but it felt out of control. It was a slow start to the year. Then he missed the 3rd and 4th races after a shoulder injury he received allegedly playing tennis. By the end of the year, he had nailed down a setup, and the team looked like one of the fastest, but reliability still held them back. When JPM entered McLaren, he was Ron Dennis's new golden boy, but the struggles had led to disinterest. In 2006, they announced Fernando Alonso was replacing Kimi Räikkönen, and they neglected to re-sign Montoya for 2007. Juan Pablo was age 31, and he saw a career in F1 ending around 35, and he wasn't interested in finding a team to run mid-pack. However, during the year, he'd been offered a 5-year contract in NASCAR by his former boss Chip Ganassi, a series where drivers commonly race until 45 or older. After he announced his NASCAR drive for 2007, Ron pulled Montoya out of the car mid-season, saying his mind was already somewhere else, thus ending his F1 career. For the last half of '06, Montoya did some practice races in the ARCA Series, the Busch Series, and the final race of the Cup Series. The cars were shocking. Honestly, he says it was difficult. They were so big and heavy, they were awful to drive, but they were fast on ovals and the racing was a blast. However, for 2007, the team he was joining was midfield. They hadn't won a race since 2002. He'd finished the year as the best rookie, beat his more experienced teammates, and get his first victory at the Sonoma Road Course. He won for the team again at Watkins Glen a few years later, but he wasn't just a road course specialist. He was decent on ovals and only just missed a few wins. If he was in a more capable team, he could have even been an alternative choice for the championship. However, unfortunately, most fans only remember this, when his suspension failed under caution. Montoya and Chip Ganassi had always had a close friendship, but after 7 years in NASCAR, each were looking for new options. Juan wasn't sure he wanted to stay in NASCAR, so he called Roger Penske to discuss his future plans. Roger offered him a return to Indycar. Upon seeing the size of the Penske organization, he knew what his former team in NASCAR had been lacking. The switch to IndyCar was tougher than anticipated, but by the end of 2014, JPM had gotten a win at Pocono and 3 further podiums, finishing 4th in the championship. 2015 was going very well, and going into the last round, Juan Pablo was the favorite to win the championship. Scott Dixon was his only opposition, and he would have to get the pole, lead the most laps, and win. But Dixon did, and would tie on points, leaving Juan finishing 2nd in the championship. However, that year he also won his 2nd Indy 500, and this time he appreciated the importance of it much more. After 2016, he was replaced as a full-time driver in IndyCar with Penske, but he would return somewhere else. Towards the end of 2017, Team Penske made their debut in the IMSA Sports Car Championship with Montoya as one of their drivers. Alongside teammate Dane Cameron, 2018 would be their first full year of competition. But then on return in the next year, they would get 3 victories and a further 4 podiums, winning the championship. After 2020, Team Penske had pulled out of the series, and at age 41, JPM took a small step back from racing. Throughout his career, he could have been seen as an aggressive driver who didn't mind conflict, but he says he wasn't there to make friends. Off track, he's quite laid back and enjoys flying his RC planes and spending time with his family. He's also taken on roles mentoring younger drivers, but now he's often seen racing in the LMP2 division, often alongside his son in both the USA and Europe. In a recent interview, he said 5 to 10 years ago he didn't care about something like the Triple Crown, but now he feels a bit different. If a good opportunity arose for the top class in the 24 Hours of Le Mans, he would go for it and try and complete his collection. So as always, thank you greatly for watching my videos. Normally there would be a hint here, but there will not be one this time. Due to a change in my financial plans, I need to find another part-time or full-time source of income, and since it takes me so long to make these videos as is, I don't know when my next video will be. I'm not saying this is the end of the channel, I just don't know when it will be. But going forward, I think my plan will be to work on some shorts or short non-research based video ideas I've had written down for a while. Of course, you never know, I may get bored tomorrow and start writing a long script again. But anyways, thanks greatly for watching and for all the kind comments I've received. But until whenever, I'll see you next time on Driver Profiles.